of all, this is not a ban on TikTok. I'm a grandmother of teenagers. I understand the entertainment value, the educational value, the communication value, the business value for some business on this. This is not an attempt to ban TikTok. It's an attempt to make TikTok better. Tic-tac-toe, a winner, a winner.
I'm sorry. These are the people who lead the country. A tic-tac-toe, a winner. Anyway, for more in-depth analysis like that, probably a little bit more detailed, is Kara Frederick, Director of Tech Policy Center at the Heritage Foundation. Okay, Kara, with the exception of tic-tac-toe being a winner, can you explain more, maybe a little more detail about the bill? What's actually in it besides tic-tac-toe?
You know, I certainly hope so. So I'll try. So what this bill does is it basically forces ByteDance to sever TikTok. So it forces TikTok to not be connected to the Chinese Communist Party via ByteDance, its parent company, which is headquartered in Beijing, subject to the laws and policies of the People's Republic of China, especially the National Intelligence Law of 2017, which effectively renders any private company in service of the state, in service of state intelligence work. And we can go on and on about those connections. But if ByteDance doesn't want to make that clean divestment, what the bill says is then it will be prohibited from being downloaded on app stores like Google Play, like the Apple's App Store, or attendant web services, so web hosting services. So if TikTok.com were to be just available as a website, that would not allow, it would basically be an end run around the bill. So that's the only reason why websites are included, but it effectively just offers ByteDance a choice. Cut your ties with the Chinese Communist Party through TikTok and ByteDance, or cease to exist in the marketplace as you used to. This is, it's very simple. I think it really, really catches TikTok and ByteDance in a lie that they won't reach for that clean divestment option. That's all they got to do. It doesn't ban TikTok. It just says, cut your ties from the Chinese Communist Party.
Okay, Kara, can you explain this ByteDance thing? Because obviously this is a company that's very familiar to you, but me, not so much. My father has never heard of these things before. You start talking to him about bytes and he's going to look for ticks and things like that. Who is ByteDance? Why do we care about that? What is this?
Yeah, so ByteDance is the parent company of TikTok. It's, again, headquartered in China, which makes it effectively a non-private entity in practice. So while it looks like a private company, the Chinese Communist Party can say, hey, ByteDance, give us your data, and they have to comply due to the legal and governance atmosphere in China. What's more, and I think these two particular points are especially salient to your average American, like your dad, like, my grandpa, is they have to know that ByteDance has one of 3 board seats in their domestic subsidiary with a card-carrying Chinese Communist Party member. That means sitting on their board is a Xi Jinping friend, a person who is part of the Chinese Communist Party. Secondly, they have an internal Chinese Communist Party committee sitting on ByteDance that helps direct and influence the activities of the company itself. So add that to being headquartered in Beijing, you basically have a CCP-controlled operation, and guess what? It's in the pockets of your kids via TikTok.
All right, Kara, I'm going to ask another dumb question, but you always come on, so you're used to those. What does that mean? Obviously, it's very, very bad to have a bunch of Chinese commissars sitting on the board, but ByteDance itself, what do we think they're doing with TikTok, for those who aren't familiar, that is harmful to America? Okay, so a Chi-Com has a social media company. I still, as an American, as a parent, why should I care?
Oh, yeah. Okay, let's break it down. We'll talk data collection first, and then we'll talk influence activities. So when it comes to data collection, the way that they're using TikTok, and we know this, it was proven, they actually targeted the physical locations of American journalists. This was a project known as Project Raven, internal to ByteDance. So this is Beijing-based, Chinese-based engineers, China-based engineers that are trying to surveil and locate where Americans are physically, because they're journalists reporting on the misdeeds of TikTok. So they say TikTok's not a surveillance app. ByteDance was actually using TikTok as a surveillance app via IP locations. They were trying to figure out where these people were, who they're talking to try to detect whistleblowers. So that's just a small portion of the data collection and surveillance applications of this. And you look at the influence operations, they were pumping propaganda, censored information, but just propaganda to Americans in the 2022 midterms that were meant to stoke divisions. So everything you and I heard about with the Russia collusion hoax and that influence operations that Russia was supposedly conducting, no, the CCP is actually doing this in 2022 when they're actively trying to, number one, cheerlead for the regime, and number two, stoke divisions among Americans by pumping incendiary information into their feeds like that of abortion and whatnot.
Okay, that's very bad. All right, I'm going to play you a clip yesterday from someone I know, someone I respect, Thomas Massie, who was against this thing, and I want you to address his concerns. Here was Massie yesterday.
This legislation to ban TikTok is actually a Trojan horse. Some of us are concerned that there are First Amendment implications here. Americans have the right to view information. We don't need to be protected by the government from information. Some of us just don't want the president picking which apps we can put on our phones or which websites that we can visit. We don't think that's appropriate. We also think it's dangerous to give the president that kind of power, to give him the power to decide what Americans can see on their phones and their computers. To give him that sort of discretion, we also think is dangerous.
Okay, Kara, who does have that discretion? It's a bill. It's in the bill. Does this land on the president's desk?
Well, it's actually not in the bill, and we know this because we were intimately involved in helping conceive and shape this bill. And what it does, it has so many backstops. So he alluded to presidential discretion. No, there has to be a public process, there has to be a congressional process, and there are only four nation states that are named: Iran, China, North Korea, and Russia. And these are in statute. They would require an act of Congress to change. Title 10 is a specific statute, if anyone wants to look it up. So they have to meet that threshold, they have to meet the public process threshold, they have to meet a genuine national security threat threshold. And you know that I am very, very sensitive to government overreach, especially when it comes to weaponizing things like terrorism tools against the American people. This does not do that. The backstops are extensive, they are formidable. I have the bill with me right here. I would encourage everyone to read the bill. This is exactly what it says. Don't just look at the sound bites. And lastly, this is not a free speech issue. The last I checked, the First Amendment protections granted to citizens of the United States do not extend to the Chinese Communist Party. Why are we protecting the Chinese Communist Party and their quote unquote right to be in the pockets of our children? It's absolutely ludicrous. They don't let us do it over in China. Why are we letting an enemy do it here? You know, the government was made for these kinds of things. And if the government can't do this, which is the bare minimum, protect your kids, my kids, from downloading Chinese spyware on their phones, what is it here for? What are we doing here? Why am I sitting here on the Hill? Doesn't work. So this is just the bare minimum that the government was created for and should do.